This town hall was a perfect example. It was a demonstration of what happens when media bias takes control of the line of questionings that candidates get, the way that questions are framed, and you will see a clear difference in how Bernie was, asked questions, how Hillary was asked questions. Just to give you some background information on that, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton weren't even in the same area. Bernie Sanders was in Columbus, Ohio. Clinton was in Springfield, Illinois. And they were both questioned by two different people. So Chuck Todd was speaking to Bernie Sanders, and Chris Matthews was the person who got to ask the questions to Hillary Clinton. Now, as you guys know, Chris Matthews is pretty transparent about his support of Hillary Clinton, and he also made that clear based on his line of questioning. With that said, you got a lot of in-depth policy ideas from Bernie, because most of the time he had to defend himself because of the tough line of questioning. And with Hillary, she got to use a lot of flowery language toward the beginning of her portion of the town hall. Talk about, how much she cares about the people. She wants to be, the candidate for the people. But Chris Matthews did ask her some tough questions when it came to her foreign policy decisions, specifically Iraq and, this notion that they had WMDs when she voted in favor of invading. You guys jump in.
Well, I mean, a great example of that would have been the question about the dialogue between the cops and communities. She said, yeah, that's a good idea. I think there should be a dialogue. And I support what Obama supports for that, but I would go further. Which, look, sounds better than what Trump does, but she didn't say anything there. I mean, look, she could have, I suppose she could have said, I don't support what Obama is doing, but there were no specifics. No, I would do this additionally. She said, I would go further. I would go further doesn't say anything. It doesn't provide any details. As I said during our live coverage, it is the same thing as, I like good deals. I would get a good deal. I won't get a bad deal. It's just that nonsense empty speak. And it's not just Hillary Clinton. There are some topics where Bernie Sanders goes into that sort of area. I didn't see it on display tonight, but we didn't get anything out of her there. Look, there was the Iraq section. I liked the Iraq section. It was him being hard, and it shows to whatever limited extent he has some independence at the network. He's not a Chuck Todd. He doesn't have to do 100% what the network says. He can do a bit of O'Reilly. And look, obviously he thinks Iraq was a mistake. I wish that he had made that case back in the day, but he thinks it's a mistake now. But other than that, I think that it was largely him trying to make the case for why she should be the president. He literally said, I think you're ready to be the commander-in-chief.
He literally did say that.
After she flubbed his foreign policy questions.
I mean,
what would he have said if she'd gotten the answers right?
Good Lord.
So, a highlight in this debate that I really want to point to is the fact that Bernie Sanders did call MSNBC out for its corporate sponsors.
Yes.
And he did it several times, and eventually Chuck Todd seemed to be a little annoyed by it, so he would repeat it kind of sarcastically. We have that video for you. It's a montage of all the different times it came up.
We have to pay a few bills, so we're going to sneak in a break.
You're going to go to your wealthy corporate sponsors.
I don't know who those wealthy corporate sponsors are. We don't know who they are, but we're going to go to the break and sneak in a break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk to the... All right, I'm going to sneak in another break from those special interests that are supporting this town hall.
If they're paying your salary, it's all right.
All right. We will be right back. It's the Bernie Sanders Town Hall in Columbus, Ohio. Senator Sanders, we're going to sneak in another break from those special interests that are supporting this town hall. The Bernie Sanders Town Hall from Columbus, Ohio. We'll return right after this. All right, we're going to sneak in one more break here. We're coming up to the end. The Bernie Sanders Town Hall here in Columbus, Ohio, on the campus of The Ohio State University.
All right, so...
let's sneak in some commentary.
Yeah, it's not really sneaking it in.
Go to break.
It was planned to begin with. But nonetheless, it was hilarious that he got a little offended by it. They don't like it when someone comes to their house and tells them the truth about how their programs are run. They're run by corporate sponsors, just like our political system is run by corporate sponsors. It all happens every day, and they don't get called out on it, and I love that Bernie Sanders did call him out on it.
I'll give him a little bit of credit for the first time he said, we're going to go to our corporate sponsors. I mean, it's kind of a smarmy thing, like everything is there. But then he said it 3 times. So I'm curious, Jimmy, have you ever accidentally on stage started telling a joke you already told in that routine?
Yes.
Is that what he was doing?
Yes.
Like, did he think that he could sell it like it was a callback or something?
I don't think he thought about it until right before he had to throw to commercial break, and each time he wanted to preempt Bernie Sanders from humiliating him again. So, and he didn't think it through. It's like, fuck, I wish I had thought about this again and I could say something different. But it's just, all those thoughts go through your head. Now, when I have repeated a joke, it's usually on the 3rd show, and I'm in Vegas on Saturday, and it's 1 in the morning. So you're like, did I tell this one tonight already? So that's usually when it happens.
It's Groundhog's Day.
So yeah, it's like that. So, but yeah, Chuck Todd, that's definitely what it was. And And it was funny. The best part about that, I think, was when Bernie Sanders said, hey, as long as they're paying your salary, it's all right.
Yeah, I think he handled that.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
The best point was when you're right. Chris Matthews, we were all happy that he went after Hillary about the Iraq war. He did not go after Hillary to expose Hillary. He went after Hillary to cover his own ass for cheerleading the Iraq war 10 or 15 years ago, however long it is right now. That's what that is, because he's been called out about doing that. On this show, on my show, on Mediaite has called him out. They've linked to the videos that I dug up about him. Chris Matthews has had the internet scrubbed. I don't know. I'm making that accusation without any, but you can't find those videos. You can't find the videos anywhere of him. I remember watch him talk about the Iraq invasion and what he was pro for it, and what are they gonna say now about George Bush? Remember when he flew onto that aircraft carrier with his codpiece? He was sitting there going nuts over the Iraq war, and then
Did he have a tingle up his leg?
he had the whole deal, right? And so he called people against the Iraq war. John Murtha, he called him a carper and complainer. That's what he called John Murtha, decorated veteran who was against the Iraq war, called him a carper and complainer. So you can't find any of that. So when you see Chris Matthews going after Hillary Clinton on her Iraq war vote, that is him covering his own ass because he knows the people in the know have exposed his ass about being pro-Iraq war. So I don't give him any credit for that whatsoever. And then he went right back to softballing. And in fact, he wrapped up that segment, which what you said, you're ready to be commander-in-chief, and he giggled about it. What a bullshit lapdog. Oh my God.
So there was a lot of giggling and laughing during Hillary's portion of the town hall.
Yes.
But also in both portions of the town hall, there was a lot of talk about Trump and what is and isn't acceptable when it comes to political protest. Now, Hillary's answer stood out to me in particular, and I want to play it for you guys and kind of start a conversation about that.
What happened on Friday in Chicago is tragically a natural outgrowth of that kind of incitement. And, look, all of us in public life, and you've covered all kinds of people running for office, in office, we all get protested against. Somebody's always upset about something. The other day, I had a man who's convinced that cell towers are causing, cancer in your salivary glands. Maybe someday we'll find out he's right. But at the moment, he's unfurling flags and he's yelling and screaming. We all have to deal with that, and you try to deal with it calmly and peacefully, and don't tell people, hey, do something to him, take him out, beat him up. And, that's what leadership requires. You're supposed to be calming people down to try to find solutions to problems.
So she goes further and kind of talks about, how important it is to do convenient protests. Like she didn't say convenient protests, but if you listen to her wording, it's about making protests convenient for the people that are being protested.
Yes.
But that's not I hate that. Like, so Occupy Wall Street, for instance, got a lot of criticism because it wasn't a convenient protest. They were riling people up.
Yes.
They were making people uncomfortable, right? In Zuccotti Park and throughout the country. And I loved it. And the reason why I loved it is because people were finally shooken out of their complacency and forced to focus on these issues that are tearing Americans apart, whether it's income inequality, wealth inequality, the inability to pay for health insurance, all of these things, the basic necessities we need to survive were being talked about. The rhetoric changed in the country because those protests were not convenient. Okay, so I don't condone violence. I don't think that violence is the right way. But when you start talking to me about okay, well, if you want to do a protest, you have to have the proper permits and you got to make sure that you stay in your corner over there where none of us can see you. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. That's not a protest. I don't want violence. I don't want you to shut down anyone else's free speech. But look, when you have a candidate who is condoning violence, who uses violent rhetoric constantly, and then you turn around and you blame Bernie supporters for that, I'm going to get pissed off, okay? Because it's not Bernie's camp that's inciting violence. It's Trump's camp. And when we talk about how we need to follow the rules and make sure we don't rile people up, I get a little heated.
Exactly what you said, if I could just piggyback on your point, saying that, sure, we need to protest, but it has to be respectful and you can't disrupt it. If you're doing a protest that is sanctioned by the people you're protesting and the police, you're not in a protest, you're in a fucking parade.